Alright guys, episode 2 of ranking, rating, and tiering horror movies. Let's go. And this time we're talking about Scream and Phantasm franchise. Start things off, let's go with the Scream franchise. Love it. Let's start off the tiering for the Scream franchise. We have great, as in my top notch. Good time, as in not bad, absolutely love it. And feeling a little woozy, which we're getting into territory where it's kind of boring. And a killer of time, which means that I probably wouldn't watch it again. So to start things off with number 1. I mean, it's the freaking original, guys. Like, literally. What do you expect me to say that, I don't like it? Love the freaking original. Absolutely love the original. Love what Wes Craven went for. I love how the 90s feel the freaking movie. I love everything about the movie. However, I'm going to reserve it because I have at least one more that I like slightly better than the first one. So I will rank it as number 3. Give it at least a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. And we're going to slide that sucker on into the good time. Because I honestly feel like in general, there's just some little things in the movie though that it's just kind of stale. Like 3 or 4 parts through the movie, my mouth, a full focus mode. However, though, in the other parts of the movie, I am getting bored. Like, it is that same kind of drama that they had in the 90s that, was struggling teens. And, the killer pops in through 3, 4, 5 times out of the movie to wow you, and then it goes back to stale. Like, and the whole time, in all honesty, most of the people in that movie theater, literally, watching it the first time, you know who the killer is. I mean, literally, like, I'm sorry to say it, but it was kind of obvious. But it's still a great movie, still a great origin, still a great way to start off the series, and I absolutely love it. That's why it's going to go in the good time. Now, getting in to Scream 2. This is one of them, guys, that I'm going to put in the great. And yes, it might be a little controversial. I know that, I understand. But hear me out. The whole freaking movie was freaking peak. It's one of the honestly best top 10 freaking sequels I've seen. And the emotion and the story that they went for, I freaking love it. I loved Dewey in this movie. I loved Sydney in this movie. I loved how they threw you off with the killers in this movie. How the whole time you're literally guessing and wondering who's going to die and who is it. Absolutely love this movie. I can rewatch it again and again. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10 easily. Rank it as my number 1. Alright, so getting into Scream 3. I think this is a very underrated movie. I know a lot of people hate it, and I understand. You're either going to hate it or you're going to love it, and there's probably not going to be an in-between. I honestly love it, in my opinion. I just love the Hollywood feel they went for. How all these characters have grown really well and matured and have their own little lives. And then, just them going for like the fourth wall type of thing, making a movie about a movie with a director of a big movie company. Like, it's just, I don't know, it was just, I loved it. I love the jump scares, I love the kills, I love everything about the movie. I love how they finally killed off Cotton and how they did it. It was literally just mind-blowing at the beginning of the freaking movie. I love how at this point too, that Sydney is absolutely fed up. Like, she's just fed up, like, I'm gonna kick your ass, come get me. But yeah, I love this movie. I'm honestly gonna rank it as my number 2. And I'm gonna give it at least a 9 out of 10. And then we just gonna slide them on in there into the great. Getting into Scream 4. Now we're getting into some territory. And it's either going to go from here really good, or it's going to make a lot of people mad. Because I know a lot of people honestly like Scream 4. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not too big of a fan of it. I like some scenes, I like some of the story, but that's about it. I'm really not too a fan of the freaking jump scares. I'm not too fan of the kills. I'm not a fan of how they went about making freaking Emma Roberts' character the killer. Like, in all honesty, it's literally like repeating itself now. Like, people you really know are really close to the killer. And it just got stale. Don't get me wrong, Emma Roberts did a really good job acting and playing that part. But it's just what they went for. So in all honesty, I'll probably rate it a 6 at best, 6, 7 out of 10. And it's probably going to take my number 4 spot. And I'll be nice enough to put it in the feeling a little woozy. Now getting into the last one, Scream 5. Yeah, I know some people might not agree. But Jesus, I really did not like this one. Like, I had high hopes, I guess, and I probably shouldn't have. And it was just, the only part I liked is, you know, everything about Dewey, kind of like the send-off. And, you know, that's really about it. Some of the kills, in all honesty, I'm not gonna really hate on the movie, but it wasn't that good. It wasn't that great, in my opinion. So I'll give it a 5 at best out of 10 on my number 5 spot, and it sadly gets the killer of time. So here's my ranking, rating, and tier of the Scream franchise. Let's get into the Phantasm. So getting into the Phantasm franchise, guys, this is one of my favorite franchises, I think. Love Phantasm. Getting into the tiering list, we have Boy, as in my favorite. Then we have You Play Good Game Boy, which is in my, that's a really damn good movie. Not the best, but it's good. And then we have Cut Me Down, as in, it's probably going to start wasting your time at this point. Like, it's not the worst, but it's going to waste a little bit of your time. And then we have Funeral's About to Begin, sir. As in, yeah, it kills 2 hours. So let's begin. Starting with Phantasm 1. I absolutely love this movie. I mean, literally, this is one of the ones where the freaking original is one of the best in the freaking series. Like, and in all honesty, for a movie made back then, and to have the amount of tension through the whole movie, and feel, and it almost feels like you were in the movie, it was a really dang good movie. I love it. I think it's an instant classic, and it is very underrated. Easily gonna give it a 9 out of 10 and rank it as my number 2. And he easily gets put in Boy. Now we get into Phantasm 2. So this one is, and a lot of people love this one, but in all honesty, I just can't learn to love it. I just don't find it that good. Like, this is the one where it just starts getting kind of off, off course. It is corrected later, don't get me wrong, but it was just like, I don't know what it was going for here. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate it. I know there's plenty good scenes in there, especially the car scene, where he pops out the casket, and, he's like, Boy. Or my bad, I think it's the third one, but no, this one, I think he's in the car, and they get in the car, and he like pops his face out of the front seat, and he just looks at him, and yeah, love scenes like that in it, but it was kind of boring through most of the movie. Some of the movie was good, but most of the movie. So for that simple fact, I'm gonna rank it as a 6 at best, 6 out of 10, and give it my number 4 spot. And then he's gonna go in to Cut Me Down. And now we get into Phantasm 3. This is one of the better ones out of the freaking franchise. I'm not even gonna lie. Don't think it's the best, but it's one of the best. And it honestly starts to pick up here from the second one. That's what I'm talking about. It starts to pick up really good. And they have scenes in there where it's just freaky as hell. On top of that, we get Reggie being a badass. On top of that, we get Michael Baldwin returns in this one, so that really does it in. We get way more scenes with the tall man. So I'll easily give it a 7.5 out of 10. Rank it my number 3. And he'll go right into the You Play a Good Game Boy easily. I'm very comfortable with this one. Okay, now we can get into Phantasm 4, Oblivion. And now we're getting into some territory, guys. Now we're getting into some good territory. And by that, I mean literally, I think this is my favorite one. And it's slightly. I love the original. Don't get me wrong, I love it. This just takes it by a slight. There's just so many good scenes, so many good explanations, so many good connecting the dots in this one that I just love so much. Like where it shows Michael going back in time through the time Forks and seeing Jedediah Morningside like back in the 1800s, like that was just amazing. And then him finally saying, oh God, you went through the Forks, and it literally just leads up to a really good story. I just loved it. I loved it. And all the scenes with Michael and freaking Tall Man himself, literally through the whole freaking movie, just having this good dialogue. I just love it very much. So I'm easily going to rate this as a 9 out of 10 easily, and my number 1. And it's easily going to go into Boy. And now we're getting into Phantasm 5 Ravager. And in all honesty, this is one of them too. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I don't think there's an in-between. And for me, I don't hate it. I just don't like it. I can't get into it. I've watched it multiple times, and I just cannot understand what they went for. Like, it went so off course. And in all honesty, some of it was good. Some of it was real good. But there's so much of it that went off course. And I can't understand why. And I understand Angus Scrimm died, I think, right before they finished the movie, which is understandable. But in all honesty, it's like the stuff you were going for, I just didn't get it. Even from the very beginning, I didn't get it. That's not worthy of hating, because it's still a good movie. It's just not understandable to me. And some people love it for what it is. I just couldn't understand it to love it. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 at best out of 10. Give it the number 5 spot. And this one is the one that sadly gets The Funeral's About to Begin, Sir. Alright guys, I hope you enjoy the tiering, ranking, and rating videos. And I'll have another episode 3 coming up in a couple of days. In episode 3, we're going to be doing Chucky. Followed by the next day probably with episode 4 with Pinhead. I'm probably going to start cutting them down to probably 1 character per video. That way I have more chance to talk about it. I can make a 9-10 minute video talking about that whole character and everything more, and not make a 20-minute and biting y'all's heads off and boring y'all, So I'll start cutting them down to 1 character per video, and the next episode we're going to be starting with Chucky. So y'all tune in.